Hi, cost accounting students. So for some of you who want to go into more detail with process costing, we now are going to go and shift over to your notes. And in your notes, there is an example, or maybe an example that looks similar to this. And so we're going to work through this one. They have given us opening inventory of 1,000 units with materials and conversion costs. They then give us 2,000 units were put into production. They give us materials and conversion. And then finally, they tell us the closing progress. The closing inventory of work in progress was 800 units, 50% complete, but at 100% of its materials. And very important, there is no spoilage. So let's look at step one. We need the physical in and the physical out to balance. So the physical in, there was opening work in progress of 1,000 units. Again, I'm just going to type that in. And we started or put 2,000 units into production. So in total, we have got 3,000 units we need to deal with, which obviously must be the units that come out. We said we're going to ignore spoilage. So the balance must fall between finished goods and closing work in progress. The closing work in progress is 800. So what are our finished goods? Well, the balance is 2,200. Okay, so now we can go and look at our percentages. Obviously, finished goods is always 100% complete. And so if we take 100% times 2,200, we have the 2,200 there. We have the 2,200 there. Next, we look at our closing work in progress. And we said that that was 100% complete with respect to materials, but 50% complete, obviously, with respect to conversion. So materials is 100%. So 100% times 800 will give us 800. And our total equivalent units for materials is 3,000. But for our conversion, our closing work in progress is half finished. So 50% times 800 is going to give us 400. And so our equivalent units down here are 2,600. Right, so we now have our equivalent units. We've finished step one of physical unit reconciliation. Step two, equivalent units we've done. We need step three, which is our costs. So here we'll go and look at our opening work in progress. And we had materials equal to 49,000. We had conversion equal to 7,200, giving us a grand total of, we add them together, 56,300. Then if we look at our current input costs, we have 100,000 for input. And then if we look at conversion, 19,320. Again, we can add these together to get the total current input costs. And now we can go and add down as well. So we can find the total costs we're dealing with. We can find the total materials cost. It'll be 149,100. And we can find the total conversion costs. You can see here by just linking cells, so much easier than doing it manually. Again, you probably want to do a reconciliation here. If you go equal to, take that total, go and subtract the subtotals. That adds up to 0, so we know everything balances. Right. So this is step three, looking at the costs. Step four was to work out the cost per equivalent unit. So we're going to bring down our costs. And then we're going to bring down our equivalent units. But we want total at this stage. So total equivalent units are going to come down. And we now can get a cost per equivalent unit. Divide the cost by the units. 10.2. And if we had a fully completed unit, it would have the 49 plus the 10.2. Now again, I should point out, in real life, you don't get nice round numbers like this. But in a test situation, if you don't get round numbers, then chances are you have made a mistake. Now, what I did here ahead is the final step is the allocation. I'm taking, for example, for the finished goods, the cost per equivalent unit, I'm multiplying it by the 2,200. That gives me that number. I'm taking the $10 and multiplying by the 2,200. That gives me the 22,000. Add them up, my total finished goods. The same process for my closing work in progress. I got 800 times the 49 gives me 39,000. 400 times 10.2 gives me the 4,800. Add the costs down, add them horizontal. This gives us a cost of finished goods, cost of closing work in progress, total cost must add back to the total cost center. And then the total of my materials must add back to the 149. And the total of my conversion cost must add back to the 26,520. Okay, so this represents a fairly reasonable example, but relatively complicated. Again, in real life, the spoilage gets it really complicated because not only do you have spoilage, but you can decide what is your normal rate, and anything above or below that is abnormal. Here we're just adding all the costs together, so we're using weighted average. We could separate out first in, last in, first in, first out. That makes it way more complicated. And then again, we just had two sets of costs. We could have had costs brought in from prior production processes, and some production processes have a total of 20 steps, and we would have to do this for every single step. Again, not more difficult, just more complicated. Well, thank you for watching this video on slightly more advanced process costing. You may or may not need to know that in this particular class. Thank you.